Hi, Marco Schwartz here, and today I wanted to share with you an interview that I recently did with the CEO of InRento, which is a real estate crowdfunding platform. So you might have known them as Evo Estate, which was an aggregator of different websites where you can invest in real estate crowdfunding deals. So now they actually moved to a single company called InRento, where they propose their own deals in the field of real estate crowdfunding. So we are going to talk with the CEO about what is InRento, what returns you can expect on the platform, and more importantly, what they actually do to protect the funds of investors that invest on the platform. So we are going to talk about all of this right now with the interview that I had with the CEO of InRento. So yes, thank you so much for joining in this interview. To start with, can you introduce yourself and your company, InRento?
Hi Marco, first of all, thank you for having me here. My name is Gustas, I'm founder of InRento, and InRento makes the most common investment type in Europe even more accessible and more common. So we take buy-to-let investing, so owning a rental property accessible for anyone to invest from 500 euros. So if before you it's if you wanted to invest in rental properties, this probably costs you hundreds of thousands of euros. You would have to deal with the upkeep, maintenance, dealing with tenants, and the list goes on, and there are so many hassles in the process. So I like to say that within Rento, we take the nicest parts of being a landlord and take all the hassles and transfer them to the project owner, someone who will manage it for you. So just like in real life, of owning a rental property, you earn rental income and capital gains when the property is sold for profit.
Okay, awesome. So you already compared a bit InRento to like more classical real estate investing, but yeah, can you for example compare like real estate crowdfunding to why is it better than other investment types? Let's say even the stock market, for example.
First of all, I'm not saying it's better, and second, I think you cannot compare these two things. I mean, these are very different asset classes, and I guess that nor stocks nor real estate is better than one another. It really depends on your own personal investment portfolio, and it really depends on your own personal approach. Uh, if we look at stocks, I mean, I want to compare mainly only to rental because this is where my main knowledge domain is that stock investing as it is today, it's not what it used to be, and today people invest for capital gains. They don't invest for dividends. When it comes to investing on the rental, you invest to get monthly payouts. So just like owning a rental property, you get rental monthly payouts directly to your bank account. So I would consider this more of an income investment. And as addition to this, there's also this growth element as well, where you also earn capital gains when the property is sold for profit. So I would say that it's something maybe for someone who's not that familiar, with real estate. I would say that I think it could be something in between, stocks and bonds, because on one side you have growth element, but on the other hand you have income element. But in rental, in rental's goal and positioning is not about you know doing what Tesla did in the last few years, like making exceptional returns and all of that. What in rental is about earning predictable income and earning investors these monthly payouts. We are now in the second year of the market. Not a single payment was late on our platform, and I'm talking not about principal repayments. I'm talking about a simple payment of interest or rent, in other words. So, and I think this is where we are heading here as well, moving into the future. Is that where we want to be is we want to not target the highest returns or you know it may sound funny as we did first property exit and our investors earned more than 20%, but this was not our goal. This is a side effect. This is what I'm talking about this capital gains. Realities and how I see our project, moving into long term is that investors earn predictable return every month, and when the property is sold at the end, they get some return, which usually is around the rate of inflation or a little bit lower. So I guess that, and why in particular I'm saying this, is because if you look at the history and you look at how inflation moves, real estate tends to correlate and exceed the inflation rate a little bit. So I guess that when we look at our product, one must consider it as an easier way investing in rental properties than actually owning them.
As you know, there are many real estate crowdfunding platforms out there, a lot of competition. So, what makes InRento different, better, as you want, than those other platforms? What can you say about that?
I would say that there are few things that makes us different from the others. So we are the first licensed buy-to-let crowdfunding platform in the European Union. So probably this proves a point that we really care about the security and safety of the investors and want to ensure the highest operational standards when serving them. Secondly, we are one of very few platforms and probably the only one regulated who offers investors a possibility to earn from property value appreciation. And when I'm talking appreciation, not development, but just natural appreciation of the property. And third uh, is something you cannot measure it like just by a fact, but I always like to say that we put our investors' interest first, and then all the other interests after. And I guess anyone can say these words, and it doesn't really prove anything. But I guess that you. Uh, I think that the best way to measure it, as I told you, until today, zero payouts were late, and the return that was actually distributed to investors is actually higher than it was expected. So we had first property exit, which was above 20% return, and because of the growing inflation, many of the rental payouts that are happening are indexed to inflation. So a lot of the payouts to investors have actually grown since the time they have invested. So I think these are the three things that makes us a little bit different. And I think to summarize it, in a short sense, what we really care about, and I think this is more important than ever today and the last 2 years, inflation is very high, and if you invest in fixed income assets or investment types, most likely you are losing money. Meaning that when you think about it, like the inflation rate was very different around Europe, but if we consider, for example, Lithuania, we had 11% inflation, I believe. And then when you look at the property that we exited, you think about it, oh, it was about 20% return. But the actual return was actually much lower because the 6% was rental yield and 14% was capital appreciation. So the reality is that the real profit someone made was 3% because of the high inflation. And I think not a lot of people think about this during the last few years, but as we move forward, I think the inflation is not going to go anywhere. It's just going to be at the same pace or even rise. So people should really become more cautious about the inflation, and when they choose to invest, make sure that they are at least beating the inflation at some part. May not necessarily be full, but at least at some.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, great. Yeah, that complete sense. Uh, Now let's actually move to some questions that my audience had. So I asked them what they would like to know about InRento, and I came up with four questions actually. And the first one is more like about something maybe more recent with your company. They were asking actually about the relation between InRento and Evo Estate. Because you have been very clear in all your newsletter about this, about the coming merger, right? But if you can just tell us a bit what's going on this side.
So InRento merged with Evo Estate. So InRento has now become the largest buy-to-let crowdfunding platform. There is license in the European Union, and we just decided. I think it was a very mutual decision between me and CEO of Evo Estate, Audrus, was that we both agreed, and this is very biased. Don't get me wrong, but I'm being very transparent that this is biased. But we just came to conclusion that we don't see a better risk-reward ratio than in Renta currently on crowdfunding, and if Evo Estate was famous for being skin in the game, if Evo always invests, like Evo founder, like CEO Odrus always invests only in rental projects, it doesn't look right. It just doesn't look, I would say, at the same time also transparent as we have done business together. So being very honest and being very transparent, we just made the decision why just not to merge to make something better, something greater, and this is what it came down to. It, with rental we can offer much better investment opportunities. We can offer much more security for the investors. All of the investors are open with their own personal bank accounts, so basically their own money is kept at regulated license electronic money institutions. So definitely, there are so many benefits for the investors that it's a surprise why we didn't even consider this doing even earlier than we did then.
Let's continue with another question from my audience. This one was about how do you actually choose the projects that you list on InRento? So you just said that you didn't have a single payout that was late, right? So this means you are doing a good job for sure. But yeah, tell us a bit more about how to actually select those projects.
Yeah, so basically, when I said before that we put the investors' interest first and we really care about transparency and security, is that if you look at risk scorings at Inrento, everything is transparent. And I want to share my screen and show you an example that you would understand what I'm talking about. So let's. Do you see my screen now? So basically, no matter which deal you go, you can always see what was their scoring. So if you scroll down, it's all transparent. So we usually ask ourselves these questions. So basically, how experienced is the borrower? What are the financials of the borrower? Who is the tenant? What is the history of cash flow? Is there a tenant? Then we analyze the asset, when it was renovated, the location, and so on and so forth. So it's all transparent and it's in absolutely every single project that we have listed so far. So if you just scroll down, you will see it. There's actually one interesting fact about this risk scoring is that, if I'm not mistaken, there has been only one or two properties that have received an A letter scoring. So it was this clinic and the other one I actually don't remember. So, but I think there was another one. So basically, we are we, you know, we are transparent and we stand by our scoring. So meaning that, as times go on, you can always compare it and see with other projects. In general, I would say that the way how we like properties and what we essentially look at each of them. So obviously we like residential assets more than commercial ones, and we look for high yielding assets. So meaning that if you have in Vilnius average rental yield at the market today 4 or 5%, so we look at deals that are 8 9%. So why, or even higher. And why is this so important? First, that there's a big margin of safety for the investor and the borrower, meaning that they can always reduce the rent it quicker, and then still cover the interest. Second aspect is that we always strive that the payment amount that the borrower is going to distribute to the investors is never higher than the rental yield, meaning that we don't have to look for questions and search how will the borrower repay this loan. In a lot of platforms, and here now I remember how we are different, from other platforms, but very good example is that when you invest in InRento, you invest in the specific assets we show. Sometimes it's nice pictures, sometimes they are not the nicest pictures, but this is what we offer to invest. In other platforms, what you can find that this is a business loan and this real estate is used as a collateral. You don't know what is being done with your money, how it's going to be repaid. You just know that this asset is the security. So again, really depends on what you like in investing, but I personally like to know how my money will be used and how am I going to get the money repaid.
So next question I think will be answered really quickly, uh, because you already touched about it. It's about all the license regulation question. So people asked what are your current plans to get a license, but you just say that you already have one, right? So
Yeah, we already have a license. So I just want to elaborate here that we have a national Lithuanian license. So we had it before the European crowdfunding regulation came out, but we have already submitted our response to when we are getting license, and this year we are going to apply, and I believe that also the same year we are going to receive the updated license for all Europe.
the last question from my audience was more about, yeah, what will happen if there was an issue with one project on your platform? So it didn't happen right yet, as you just say, but what would be the steps if there was a problem?
So, you know, obviously this will happen, so we have to be very understanding of that. We are offering people an investment, not a scam, because only in scams you don't lose money, but until one day you do. But it really depends on the situation and what is necessary to understand, and also what investors need to expect in general when lending money through crowdfunding. And business is very dynamic and markets are dynamic. So basically some situations are very temporary. So you know no one will start a recovery process and mortgage enforcement just because someone missed a payment, or someone is late to repay the principal. We have to analyze the situation and why is this happening. Is this happening because the borrower is insolvent? So if this is a question of insolvency, so definitely the recovery process would be started instantly, and then mortgage would be repossessed if necessary. But if this is some external factor, like for example, I would say, for example, you plan to sell your apartment today, and something like, for example, what we have today, like war happened and the seller decided, to switch. So in this situation, you know, is it smart to start, the recovery and bankruptcy? No, it's better to find a better solution that works for the investors and the borrower. When it comes to the rental, every day that the borrower is late to repay, 0.2%. So it's a very high interest. So if someone is late, investors get 0.2, sorry, 0.1% interest. So annually, this is 36.5% annual interest. So this is still very high. So obviously, what I'm trying to say that first of all, no matter what is the situation, investors would get the late penalty interest. Second of all, each situation is different, and it's better to find the best business solution for both parties rather than just going brute force and trying to reach positive result, but by doing damage.
So now let's talk a bit about more like the future of the field. Maybe first, so what are your thoughts about where the whole field of real estate crowdfunding is going in the coming years? So maybe for example, in terms of yields, in terms of regulation, as you see fit.
Just want to double check the question. You're asking what's going to happen with crowdfunding in the next few years? You know, it really depends. Like, first of all, I think that crowdfunding in general is going to change. Like, if we look at InRento and we say, oh, like we are the first ones and we still remain the only ones who are licensed in all EU. Uh, so I think not long after we are going to look at very innovative business models and we are going to think, whoa, we can actually invest in these sort of asset types. This can be seen in the United States where you can invest in very strange things. Uh, actually, like, I think that the biggest surprise for me that you could actually invest in art. Uh, I mean, I personally don't understand the art that much, so for me I mean, the investment aspect of art. So for me, I think that either you trust the platform that the professionals are doing it, or you just play around and it's a little bit of a gambling. So for me, it was like very strange to see this happening. But I feel that more and more industries like such are going to evolve. So bearing this in mind, I believe that crowdfunding will be much bigger and offer much more different asset classes to invest. When it comes to real estate crowdfunding, and I would say again, it will be much broader, and I believe that some the market will first segment. So basically, today when we look at platforms, people still don't see too many differences. Like now, they see a difference between InRento and maybe some lending platforms, and they understand it. But in general, I would say that a lot of investors still don't see a difference between one or other real estate crowdfunding platforms. But I think that the difference is going to be huge. They're just going to continue going in very different directions, and market will begin to be consolidated. Like look what we did. Like in last year, last calendar year, we acquired or merged with two platforms. So we are going to continue this role of acquiring and or merging with different platforms. So keeping this in mind, the market is going to consolidate. It's going to be grow bigger, but there will be less players in the market.
Now a bit the same question, but more specific to your company, InRento. So can you tell us maybe a bit about future plans, like new features, anything like this?
I think for us, we are just going to work uh, further to creating more predictable uh, income investment opportunities. We have some plans of going abroad. Uh, some we already launched in Spain. We learned many things from going doing our first investment opportunity in Spain. And as we continue to grow, we are planning to do even more investment opportunities as well abroad and to capture more markets. But in our case, like what's stopping us at some particular markets is the security. So basically, when we go abroad, we have to, and what we want to ensure is that the security that the investor gets investing in that country is equal or more or less the same than what we have with investing here. And for us, this is a great challenge because if you look at all Baltic states, we are all very young countries, but at the same time, we are very advanced in terms of digitalization in general, like the public processes, like for example placing a mortgage, is very easy, it's very cheap, and it's very understandable, whereas in some particular markets first it's very expensive, it's very slow, it's very bureaucratic, and sometimes it just doesn't work how it's supposed to work. So that is the thing that has been stopping us a bit. We spent way too much money on lawyers than we planned, but it's better safe than sorry. And as we continue, we still have time. We are patient, and as we are going to continue to grow and offer new markets, we want to maintain the same level of standard that we already have until today.
So now, just to a bit finish up this interview, let's imagine somebody is listening to this and is completely new to real estate crowdfunding. What would be your advice for this person to get started in the field?
The best thing one can do is to diversify and learn. I guess that before you always learn as you continue to do something. So I would say the best way is to start, but maybe start small and just to diversify and choose the right platform where you want to invest, because you can diversify as much as you want, but if you're diversifying through bad investments, the diversification doesn't help. So bearing this in mind, I think that just be smart and be cautious, and there's no rush. Uh, Crowdfunding will not make you a millionaire, so you should be patient and you should be consistent. Whichever strategy you choose, I would say that you know just be patient and be open to learn. InRento.com. So yeah, InRento.com. You can also check our YouTube channel, which is called InRento. So there you can also find some information where I or my colleagues speak about real estate or the investments. There are some interviews. So, but I would say in rental.com we have blog and we have video space. So you could just go there and learn more. And yeah, this is where you can learn more.
So thank you again for answering those questions. I'm sure my audience will love it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, this is already the end of this interview that I did with the CEO of InRento. I really hope that you enjoyed it and that you can learn something from this interview, especially in is InRento a good platform to invest in real estate crowdfunding. So to learn more about InRento, I suggest that you just go on my website. I published a more in-depth review of the platform where you can find more details about it, and also my latest result with the platform, because I'm of course an investor as well on InRento. So to find that, if you are watching this on video, you will find the link just below the video. If you are listening to the podcast version of this, just make sure to go on my website on the podcast show notes. You will find this link as well. That being said, if you have any question about InRento, about real estate crowdfunding, or investing in real estate in general, don't hesitate to just leave a comment on the video or on my website if you are listening to the podcast version of this. That being said, thank you again so much for watching this video or listening to the podcast, and I will see you on the next one.